we really can't last like 1 month without layoffs, right? So yes, it's happening again, more rioters were let go. But this time, things are slightly different from what we have previously seen. Because technically, there is no downscaling. There is no stepping back to reorganize, there are just changes. Under some really weird circumstances. Now, with that said, while you'll see me trying to make sense of all of this in this video, I am not trying to justify what happened here. The fact that this happened at all is bullshit. Anytime layoffs happen, it always goes down to poor management. It could have been avoided and it should have been avoided. And the fact that this time we lost people with some really big value, I mean, we are talking about veterans who made Riot a lot of money. It makes no sense. And again, I am not justifying this. I am just trying to figure out why this even happened. So yeah, somehow it happened. And it all originates from this post by Trindamir called An Update on How We Are Evolving League. Spoiler alert, we won't hear too much about that evolution. And it reads, "Hey all, I want to share important updates about League of Legends PC. We've made changes to our teams and how we work to make sure we can keep improving the League experience now and for the long term. But I want to be clear, we are not slowing down work on the game you love. We are investing heavily in evolving today's challenges faster while also building for the future. As part of these changes, we've made the tough decision to eliminate some roles. This isn't about reducing headcount to save money. It's about making sure we have the right expertise so that League continues to be great for another 15 years and beyond. While team effectiveness is more important than team size, the League team will eventually be even larger than it is today as we develop the next phase of League. For riders who are laid off, we are supporting them with severance package that includes a minimum of 6 months pay, annual bonus, job placement assistance, health coverage and more. We have full confidence in Meddler, Pabro and the League leadership team, who are leading the charge in the next phase of League's journey, and we look forward to sharing more about our ambitious plans in the future. Thank you all for playing and being part of the League community. Mark." Now, the first thing everyone thinks after seeing this announcement is, I can't believe Riot is so greedy. There are more layoffs so they can pocket more money. Of course they are just doing this to increase the Q4 interests. Well, I guess not enough people bought the $500 Ari skin. Even though the person who made it was actually laid off too. More about that later. And honestly, I can't fault anyone for thinking this, given Riot's history. This isn't our first rodeo. We lived through Riot shredding the lore department before rebuilding a new one. Earlier there were also mass layoffs with the rest of the industry. And so now, when we hear about more jobs being lost, yeah, I understand if people turn into doomsayers. That one cinematic really did some damage. But if you pause for a second and you think about what is actually happening here, it is not all doom and gloom this time. In fact, it is something quite common a lot of companies of all sizes do. Now, I know as a fact that immediately after I mention this, there will be some people who will just call me a bootlicker. Because Riot is working with me all the time, and so it is in my interest to keep our relationship healthy. Well, I see you don't remember my Ruination days. Because in reality, Riot knows that I can be critical and honest. Really, choose your poison. So to set the record straight, expensive gacha systems that prey on people with impulse buying can suck my d. But this situation has nothing to do with that. So let's talk about facts more than feelings. When Trinamir mentioned that none of this is about saving money, I am inclined to believing him because everything lines up towards just classic restructuring. The article is called Evolving League, after which, instead of evolving, they just announce more layoffs. Yes, I'll be honest, that is quite comical, but I strongly doubt that was intended. They are not dumb, there had to be a specific reason for that title. So what is far more likely the case here is that League is just evolving its focus. Hence why they need to cut some people from positions that are no longer in line with that focus, and they rearrange the jobs to push League in a new direction. I'm gonna give you an example of this. Back in the day when League was releasing like 8 new champions a year, it made sense for them to have a lot of different champion designers that could be working on different champions at the same time. This would include both visual designers and designers working on the gameplay part. But now that we are down to only 3 per year, if Riot's 2025 plans are changing League's player experiences, it would make sense to get rid of some of the champion designers and get in new game designers who could work on new game modes and game experiences for Summoner's Rift. Now, this may not be the case here specifically. I think the focus is slightly different, you'll see what it likely is in a moment, but that is still likely dealing with the 2025 plans. And so no matter what's really happening, the exact same principles apply. If you change directions, you simply need different people. This is nothing special and it's happening in companies all the time. And Tryndamere even tries to directly confirm that's the case, but most people look past it. This isn't about reducing headcount to save money, it's about making sure we have the right expertise. What also plays into this is another thing that we have to mention. These are not really mass layoffs. It looks scary and it sucks to be one of the writers who are hit here, but compared to what we would expect, only about 30 people are actually let go here, which is not even 1% of Riot's workforce. It really seems to be just a few teams shifting around because Riot wants to work on different things now. And this is also why we didn't really get this announcement in an official post. It is just a tweet. Because this kind of announcement is actually adequate to how big of a change this is. And that is exactly why I don't believe that this is a cost-cutting mechanism. In such a big company, if you tell your accountant that you want to save money by letting go 30 people, he's gonna look at you and ask if you want to pouch for those pennies. This simply does not add up. If Riot was doing this for some greedy reasons, they would do something much more drastic. Not get rid of 30 people whom they can support. Which is why this simply has to be done for logistical reasons instead. With that said, it is also possible that some kind of reconstruction was happening, and while they were in the middle of that, instead of just freezing some jobs for a month or two before they find them a new solid place, they just decided to lay them off for now. And after those new positions are finally locked in, they can rehire. This is the simplest thing a company can do. It is also something that sucks for the people hit, but honestly, it is not something out of the ordinary. Another thing that is worth mentioning here is that Tryndamere said that this is all focusing on the long-term League experience, and that things were not slowing down as a result. This is actually a hint towards what's really happening. Because if you take this and you combine it with the fact that he also mentioned that team effectiveness is a lot more important than team size, and you look at who was affected, at first we might be confused, but then things might start adding up. So, let's look at the affected riders. Lexi, also known as Lexical, is someone who got hit. She was actually a very big designer at Riot. So this one was a shock to say the least, especially after she appeared in one of the streams during the player days recently. Thea, who was an incredible skin artist, responsible for some of the most popular skins in the game, also somehow got hit. Fun fact, she was also on the team responsible for outsourcing other studios to make more skins. Or Ben Rosado, also a 3D artist working on characters. In fact, this guy made some of the most popular skins of this year, including the new Veigar, Nami, and it's the person who made the Faker Ahri skin. So since Riot is also taking away people from the skins team, things start getting weird. Because if this was a greedy move, you wouldn't be removing people from the thing that makes you the most money. Also, no, I do not believe Riot is replacing anyone with AI. At least not yet, as far as we know. That would be a whole another rabbit hole. Also, this goes for Riot Earthslug. an awesome writer who was working on the client minigames. This is strange because this was confirmed to be a focus point for League going forward. Just bunch of new fun experiences to come out as other new things release. Or John Yang, character animator who was working on Champions. See, these are all weird because Riot is not getting rid of too many people compared to the company's overall size, but these employees specifically left a big mark on League's quality. Their positions had a clear meaning. So how is it possible that someone like Lexical is let go? Is it simply too many cooks in one kitchen? That's what I originally thought. But honestly, now I believe there might be only one real answer. Since this is all tied to League PC specifically, and it is focusing on the future evolution of the studio, I believe League is shifting to a new team rotating system. And I believe this because of how the season 2025 changes were teased so far. They confirmed that League is gonna have multiple seasons in 2025, with each season getting its own theme, narrative, and playable experiences. This feels like Riot wants to form new separate teams, with each team having all the experience they would need to make one complete season. In other words, maybe League is forming 2 or 3 smaller teams where each of them make a complete League of Legends experience. So each team would have a champion designer for a new champion for the season, a gameplay designer to give us something new on the Summoner's Rift, a narrative person to give it all some lore, and an art designer to tie it all in a theme. And together they would make one locked-in unit. Of course, they don't need one of each person, that's just an example. And as the seasons are rotating, the teams can always make something new 2 seasons ahead. This would mean that anyone who was caught in between these teams, like a person who didn't have a locked-in team and they were just pending between whoever just needed them at the time, well, because they didn't have a locked-in spot, they would simply be let go. To me, that's the only logical explanation why this is all happening. And I believe League might be interested in this rotating team system because TFT is using it, where they have multiple teams working on multiple sets at the same time, and so far it is working great. So maybe Riot saw the potential and they wanna transfer that to League too. Lastly, I also wanna mention one more thing. Riot is actually taking care of all the people who are let go. As mentioned here, all of them are getting 6 months of pay with the annual bonuses, so they essentially have half a year of time to get a new job. They get job placement assistance, which also includes the option to apply internally within Riot for a new spot. I'm not sure why that's not mentioned here. And of course, health coverage. Though remember, the darker side of this is that if you wanna work at Riot, you kinda have to live in LA, which is quite an expensive place. Hence why everyone is likely getting the 6 months of pay. And if you don't think that's good, think of what you got the last time you might have lost a job. And lastly, to cap it off, Trindamir actually gave us an additional comment. While we're on the subject of team size, I want to talk a little about both size and budget, and why they aren't the right way to measure whether a team will be successful. We have definitely been memed in the past for talking about budgets, and rightly so. Success isn't about throwing more people or money at a challenge. We've seen small teams at Riot and elsewhere build incredible things, while large teams, both at Riot and elsewhere, miss the mark. While the League team will ultimately be larger after these changes, what matters more than size is having the right team, right priorities, and a sustainable approach to deliver what players need. If we are solving the wrong problems, more resources won't fix it. It's about building smarter and healthier, not just bigger. Here he pretty much summed up what seems to be classic restructuring. As to why it didn't happen directly after the last layoffs, that will remain to be a mystery. Also, I like that he can also meme about the budget. And fun fact, the biggest budget in League's history was actually mentioned by Nicolo, who left Riot the same year he mentioned it. Maybe he just wanted to meme on the whole company. But that's pretty much it for the layoff situation. They are not as big as people might think, And while it sucks that it's still happening, in the most hilarious of twists of fate, you were all laughing when I tried Genshin, you were all laughing at Paimon, but eventually we will all end up in Hoyoverse.